Is your sales department using outdated sales techniques? Let's talk about modern approaches to car sales in this episode of Down Payment.
Welcome to Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Prepare to learn something new about the industry that keeps us moving.
Check out all our podcast content on our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X. Welcome back, and in this episode, we're talking sales. So, they say sales is timeless, but the way it's done definitely changes with the times. And unfortunately, a lot of used car dealers are not keeping up with the times. Consumer preferences and expectations about their sales experience has definitely evolved. A lot of dealers haven't adapted to keep up. Now let's talk about traditional sales techniques, because traditional sales techniques in this industry are still heavily trained and have been around for decades. They really tend to focus on what I call psychological methods. A lot of time spent on stuff like overcoming objections and closing the deal. And while there is definitely a time and a place for these, I don't think that is the proper emphasis for a majority of our sales approach and technique nowadays. These old methods come with some side effects, unfortunately. It feels pushy to people, and they don't like it. It drives negative sales experiences, negative reviews, and it kind of turns into the stereotype of the industry in general. We need to look for better ways. And when we see the trends in sales in general outside of our industry, things have been changing for the last 10, 15 years, and a different approach has become really popular. That is, there's lots of different terms for it, but I call it value-based sales. Value-based sales has the goal of the salesperson providing value to their customer. Instead of trying to psychologically push the customer to commit to a sale, the goal is to support them with information across the whole process. You want to meet the customer where they are at, understand their needs, their position in the funnel or the buying process, and for every point along that process, have information available to them to help guide them through, to relieve their concerns about the sales process and understand better how to get through the sale. Ultimately, that is what, as dealerships, we offer to the market. It's the ease of buying a car from us rather than going it alone that justifies our existence. And value-based selling really interfaces with that concept well. Offer the customer information through the process and build trust to distinguish yourself from the competition. Now, the problem is value-based sales is tough in the used car industry. It really emphasizes product and financing knowledge, and that's really tough when we have big, diverse inventories that are constantly changing. And so you got to come up with a method to instill strong product knowledge in your employees, in your sales staff, on a recurrent basis. You need to do frequent sales team huddles that imparts this inventory knowledge. They need to not only know their inventory, but they need to know about their inventory. And to do this, sales managers have to take the lead to make value-based sales possible, selling possible, by providing the sales staff deeper inventory information. They need to know stuff about the product at that period in time. They need to know both the pros and the cons. They need to offer both sides of this in order to give that real transparent, trust-building sales experience that the customer really appreciates. And if you can do that, your dealership's going to distinguish itself as being the most knowledgeable sales team in your town or in your market. customers are going to notice this. It's going to drive better sales experiences, which ultimately leads to better reviews and more repeat and referral traffic. It's time that we get with modern sales approaches and bring that to the used car industry. And with that, it's been another episode of Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Check out our podcast on all our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X.
Thank you for listening. Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers, is a production of Meta Financial Services Incorporated.